We
right?
waited, actually, not we waited about in building our performances and so forth, but this launching of the Sourcecast, a new level of media and Source Media Network, launching our network, which we've been doing in a while. This has been 4 or 5 years planning this moment. This is a huge moment.
Yeah,
It
it
really is. And
is.
also, what you said, to each other as colleagues, with great passion for the greatest story never told, and what this means to break the trance for all the people, for the human family, in light of the great wisdom, teachings, and scriptures of the ages. With all that passion, we're saying we need to do a weekly, regular conversation, open space, and I'd like you to talk about that. What?
Yes. Okay, so well, this is episode one of our new series that we're going to be calling Breaking the Trance. And instead of the word podcast, we're using the term sourcecast. And that's something that we're coining to kind of differentiate from the din of noise in the podcast world. And that is, of course, connected to Source Media Network and this network that we've created, which I'd like for you to speak on, Dad, as well. But Source Media Network was created and born about 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah, in 2021 is when we decided to create Source Media Network as a network that is honoring the source of media itself, rather than buying into all these media outlets that we have that are available to everybody, whether it's social media or video, hosting and all of that, and podcasts and stuff like that. We forget that what makes all of it possible, I think we just all kind of take it for granted. Yes, we're doing it. We humans created it. We're doing it. It's on our terms, and everything just becomes a free-for-all of fire hose of everybody's consciousness everywhere, all the time, all at once. And we wanted to stand apart from that, in the sense that we're recognizing that there's something that is sourcing all of it. Even though we're the ones, we think we're taking credit for it, we're inventing it, we're coding it, we're all this, but we're being guided at a deep level from that which sources all, our every heartbeat, our every breath, our every iota of consciousness and experience, and even the whole universe. We forget that piece of it, and it's like we started to notice. It's like, yeah, this technology is amazing, and it's democratized publication in a way that would have been unthinkable even just a few decades ago. And it's amazing that people have that power, and it's wonderful. But also, it's become just overrun by so much self-seeking, kind of ego-based. It's all about us. It's all about us all the time, and what we're trying to do for ourselves to get ourselves further our agendas and whatnot. And we felt that there needed to be a distinct network, a media outlet, so to speak, that could be everywhere on any of these hosts, but that stands apart in that it's always holding the space of recognizing that source, which is infinite, is making all of this possible. And let's have a channel that can allow that voice to speak in myriad ways and myriad, modalities and fonts. And we've been doing that for years. We've got shows such as on my other YouTube channel, Human Up TV. We have 1776 Now, our Unfinished American Revolution, which was a really major production that we did back in 2019 through 2021, really. Podcasts. I have my Human Up podcast. My dad has put out 28 meditations, amazing journey into philosophy and the Logos Code, which he's also recently picked up. Our first show that we're putting out there on Source Media Network's new YouTube channel is this new Gangadean's Quest for the Missing Logos Code, 5-episode series so far. We've done that. We've done Perfect Union podcast. I've done a Yoga of Yoga podcast. There's so much stuff that we've done, and it's been kind of, in a way, sort of scattered about. Source Media Network is we're going to kind of bring it all together and unimize it. That's one of our favorite words. Unimize it from unum, the Latin unum for one, to bring it together. So like another word for yoga. So we're that's kind of, and we were already gearing up for that back in 2021, and we started with 3 episodes of The Greatest Story Never Told, the first episode of which was titled Breaking the Trance, which is the name of this current show that we're starting up now. You could say that 3-episode journey of Greatest Story Never Told was the trailer for what we're doing now, starting 4 years later, almost 4 years later. We're picking it up now after some really important hiatus time that I personally needed, and a lot of self-work and things I needed to do to get back to this point, which I'm very excited about. So that's kind of like a little snapshot of what brings you into this moment. And now we're going into Breaking the Trance, which is a source cast as opposed to a podcast, a broadcast from source, from the source space, or at least two regular guys who are serving that call to put source first, and to frame all of our myriad human issues and all that we're trying to figure out now in that context, and in a global context, and in a long span of time context, to really understand the importance of where we are right now. So it's a source cast. We're calling it the first source cast for Source Media Network. We're breaking the trance, and we're going to dive into what exactly we mean by that. So those are some of my opening thoughts, Pops.
Well, beautifully said, Nath. You framed it nicely. And this is inaugural, and we've anticipated launching this as a regular commitment, at least once a week to start with, and perhaps expanding even beyond then. So people can join us. And you're speaking of source cast as tapping a deeper source. And the hologram behind me, which is rather open and clear right now, which I've been used for decades in my teaching to help people understand the shift in code. Imagine everyday code here in red, so to speak, and the great teachers calling us to go deeper into the source of all life, the source of all consciousness and experience and reason, the light of reason, whatever name we use, all the great scriptures, all the great first philosophers, and men and women of the ages who are trying to make a crossing from a more derivative code, or maybe I'll pull back a few pages, I don't want to get too messy, into a deeper space. So source media, when we do this with our fingers, if you see here, imagine this code is where the human family has been thriving in many ways and also perishing in this space because of the power of tapping the logos, the Greek word, but it's a word now in this source context, source science, for the source of all narratives, all worlds, all disciplines, all arts and sciences, all human experience is going on in this space, and the need to cross into source. So we have media here, and it's great and brilliant, and the world has been wired across the planet, which is brilliant. But the noise and the almost a pollution of flow of Google information and disinformation and misinformation and manipulation and hacking and all of that, with the good things, we need to open a deeper space where the great teachers and scriptures are speaking, inviting us to speak from the source. Nothing. When you do yoga, you show that yoga here is not yoga. Yoga is crossing from the derivative code into the source code. So yoga is sourcing. If you say it's Om, it's Brahman, it's Vedanta, whatever, the Vedic science of yoga, it's not in the ordinary Google space, it's in source word. It's a deeper language, the language of logos. So yes, that's source media. We're daring to say we need a deeper opening to media that opens up the space for the source, because that journey from here, we're entranced and held by the code that we've developed and had developed us over millennia of evolution. It's now reached such a crisis point that we have no choice but to evolve and go higher to a deeper form of literacy and language and experience and being human here or here. So this is all important. This source cast that we're launching now with all of the supplements and prelogs and prologues and forewords that we've done over the last several years and published. Näthan, you itemize them beautifully. But now we're opening up a fun space. We want just a bit of what you said, Näthan. What's the source? It's an open space in the source of deep dialogue, not monologue, but deep dialogue flow where we meet in sacred ground. That's Sourcecast. In the Sophia space, in the logo space, in the sacred space. We're daring to say, let's hold deep sacred dialogue together. Everyone's welcome. It's not judgment. It's not making people feel badly if we've been stalled and in suffering and breakdown of all kinds of human dysfunctions in the lower level of thinking and processing and making ourselves and our worlds a different version, evolving version of ourselves as mature rational beings, as a maturation of the species. We're not here to judge. As Rumi beautifully said in one of his poems, often quoted, there's a field beyond judgment of right and wrong. I'll meet you there. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Where is the there? Source. He was source casting. Mm-hmm. Jesus is source casting. Buddha is source casting. Moses at the burning bush and bringing the laws, that source lawing. So all the great first Socrates, leave the cave and come into the logos, know thyself. The great, beautiful Greek origin of wisdom, of the journey of rational beings, to know thyself. There's source casting. So if you think of it that way, Jesus, Buddha, Moses, Muhammad, the great scriptures, the great men and women of the ages, the great mystics who saw that truth is beyond what we've got, it's beyond our words. They didn't know how to get the language power. That's the technology that opened up in this hologram. Something has happened in my journey over 60 years in trying to listen to the great wisdom teachers and scriptures, living with them and teaching them and their texts and their teachings for decades, and seeing we've got to really open up a code shift from a lower code, mark it out. It wasn't there before. Something new has happened. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting. And as you say, it's great news. It's great news because what all the great first teachers and scriptures dreamt of and medically urge is we can end the suffering and dysfunction by suffering at a more closure here and journey, even though it's challenging and scary, into a deeper version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we hope to encompass, a medical shift from a more derivative space where the human family across the planet, and we're really speaking to everyone. And in a non-judgmental way, but in a fun way. We want to invite everyone in, whatever your orientation, whatever your belief system, even if you're a skeptic or a cynic or whatever it is, and you hate Logos and you hate God, everyone is welcome to join in because this is for everyone. Mm-hmm. We're trying to create a safe, open space for everyone to join in our fun. It's playful, it's lila, it's sport. When athletes are in the zone, in their peak moments, they know they're at peak. We want to have dialogue in the zone. That's Sourcecast and Source Media. I hope, Näthan, am I speaking? Are you following what I'm getting?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point about it not being judgmental, it's funny that when we get into this realm of people sharing with other people what they purport to be wisdom or self-help or what have you, or I've got something that I'm going to teach you or show you, and it's often laden with, you're doing it wrong and you need to be more spiritual or you need to be more this or more that. And so we're not coming from that place at all. But however, when we realize that, when we denormalize the fact that we are actually suffering deeply, and the denormalize is a very important word because when it's normalized, that's almost like the worst thing about human suffering is we stop. We almost get anesthetized to the fact that we're suffering and that we're hurting, and then we function from that place. And this is part of the trance effect that we're going to be addressing. But when you think of it like this, we're in a day and age where perhaps more so than ever, where we're in a kind of postmodern relativist. Everybody's got their own opinion. Nobody has any higher truth. There's if it's totally cool, whatever you want to believe in, have at it, but don't you dare put anything on me. And so it's almost like people think of that as a very enlightened way to be. Is it like no, it's just everybody gets to choose their reality off of a menu. and there is no unifying truth, or there is no something higher that we are all accountable to. But when we look at all the wisdom teachings across the planet, we take away the religious aspect of it, what ended up panning out from these teachings in terms of dogma and rituals and traditions and stuff like that. But if you just take the purity of the teachings across the globe, they're all calling us to rise above the suffering. They're all, in a way, they're like doctors, okay? And I love that analogy, because like if a doctor comes in after he takes your blood and says, look, we've got a problem with your blood levels. We got to really get your iron up. Your iron's low. It would be silly to sit there as a patient and go like, you're being judgmental to the doctor. I mean, come on. It's just like, it's like the doctor's helping you, right? So we don't do that in that context. We go, thank you for helping me find out what's wrong with me, But we seem to, at least in my view, it seems to be like never less on our radar than it is now to see and address our suffering at the deepest levels, and understand that it's not about these great wisdom teachers. They're not religions. It's science. It's a deeper kind of science.
Source science, yes.
Source science. And so what's so powerful about your work, Dad, which, I always give the little anecdote of my journey of resistance for many years, because just because you're my dad doesn't mean I was like listening to you,
You didn't. No, you didn't.
I mean, I was soaking it in. We grew up reading different scriptures, and I knew, I was aware that was special, and really gave me profound awareness. And there was attention being paid to the spiritual. But by the time I left home when I was 18 years old, I just really kind of filed all of it away, and all the philosophers and what you were doing. And, it's just sort of not making the mark. Whereas where I was going, in Sedona and this like new age Mecca, where everybody was talking about aliens and crystals and angels and psychic readings, which is all great, by the way, it's all fine. But I was in a mode of kind of like sort of rejecting source science, what we're calling source science now. And I needed to, and it was healthy for me. I needed to, go tool around out there and try every single thing from Sunday to try to get to what I really, really wanted, which was my higher self, my source self, my true being, my true nature, which is what we all really want. And we're disconnected from that, and that's the suffering. Well, after a number of years, it was in the lab of life, trying everything under the sun and hitting that dead end again and again and again, because every time I was barking up the wrong tree, I was missing the point, and I was buying into sort of the sugar high that a lot of gurus and teachers and teachings are offering us. As a sugar high means it's like, oh, this is it, and then we follow it and we do it as whatever. It's breath work, it's yoga, it's meditation, it's power of now, whatever it is, and we get on this sugar high and we go, and then lo and behold, you kind of find yourself still in the same place over and over and over and over, and then you got to find another sugar high. And that's kind of that's like the state of the art right now, and there's plenty of people willing to fill that gap as teachers, gurus, all that stuff. And we want to
life coaches, yes, that's right.
We want to interrupt that and say, look, this is not about us. This is not about you, Ashok, Dad, and me, Näthan, trying to make a name for ourselves and elbow our way into the scene. This is like, no, this is a sanctuary outside of that, where we can bring in a global, unified understanding, the wisdom that's been coming through the planet for ages. And it's all been siloed and it's all been separated due to the trance that we're breaking or purporting to break here. Everything's been siloed and disconnected, and therefore rendered inert and innocuous, and we can't seem to get past that postmodern, well, everybody's just opinions, it's all just choose your path on a menu. We're bringing it together in this space, and that's the source science. And that source science is infinitely applicable to all human beings, all rational beings. I'd even go beyond saying just human beings. Any rational being will need to understand this code shift that we keep speaking of. And it's not just some esoteric idea like for philosophers. This has to do with every single moment of your life and every area of your life: parenting, love life, career, your civic life. All of the different aspects of your human journey has to do with this breaking trance, this code shift that we're speaking of. So I just wanted to say that point. It's not a judgmental space, but we are approaching it like doctors, if you will. What's really going on? What's really plaguing us? And let's see if we can heal this and rise above it.
Well said. And I, as a teacher for 57 years at Haverford College, teaching brilliant young students, they come in. I mean, that's when you took off on your journey. To be a critical thinker, you want every human, as a philosopher, first philosophy is getting to what's first, the ground floor, that there is a source for all of our possibilities. That's the infinite space. It took me decades to get this hologram clarified, to see that there is a derivative code, it's powerful, Google space. And then there's a crossing of all the great first teachers and scriptures are seeking creatively, even though you point out that they're put in silos. Buddha is over here, yoga is over here, Muhammad is over there, Moses is over here, there is, oh Christ, and there is science. That's a silo. This is a silo maker. The technology of how we use our consciousness, objectifying and looking at contents, A is A, everything has its ID. That's really what's been dominating. You can call it Google space. We've been living in Google space. And this marker was never there to make clear that, wait a minute, our life is going on here, our language, our reason, our feelings, our emotions, our human relations, our politics, our religion, everything is under the sway of a transcendental hidden code, so to speak, software. This is software. We didn't see the software that's shaping the game. And that Buddha, for example, in breaking the barrier, the trance of being immersed and located under and within the bounds of the software, saw that this produces fragmentation and polarization and objectification and generates profound disorders in the human condition. That's the source of human dysfunctions. And ontology, the science of being, ontos from the Greek, being, ontology, the science of being, first science, right? With the logos science, which is what we call source science, is medical ontology. Yeah, you call it right, nothing, it's medicine. If a physician sees, Moses is bringing the physician's vision of Yahweh. Jesus is the logos in the flesh speaking as a healer to end this alienation and bring people to the Christ life, the Christology. Krishna is coaching Arjuna, the broken warrior on the battlefield, which is broken down because of the software, to rise in the yoga technology. On and on. Socrates, leave the cave and come into the rational life. This is who you are. This is the real self. That's medical ontology. So source science, the science which is, why is it source science? Because it's the infinite. So what? It's infinitely one, which means what? And that's what this means. The symbolism, this hologram. Nothing can be outside of being. You said all rational beings, and Kant, for example, said not just human rational beings. If there were alien beings in the universe, they would still be under logos. All rational beings. And that's a great gift. As you say, it's a resource that we can manipulate and misuse if we don't become critical thinkers and minded. So your journey, as your dad, I said to you when you say, I'm leaving college, I said, good, go west and find your way. And you tried all kinds of different modes of trying to find yourself. Your music was coming through, your yoga teaching. As you got certified as a yoga teacher, even though it was your background, you started to teach yoga and say, this is not yoga, this is yoga. And to bring music from the source, your lyrics and your voice and your song, you were source casting in your music. I marveled at your gifts as being a spontaneous sorcerer. And it was only years later now that we're colleagues and partners in crime, so to speak. But it's medicine. And if the physicians of the ages, the great visionaries and first responders to the call of being, of reality, of logos, of source, were prescribing and diagnosing, this is not good. Well, people are in a trance, they're addicted to software. And we make our lives here, and it's normalized. So breaking the trance, which is the title of this podcast, is how do we go from being immersed and situated here to become aware, to say, wow, check out the software. Why didn't we see that? And that we have a choice, the axiom of choice, Buddha. Existence is suffering. It's how we're using our minds. We make our reality with how the mind operating process. We have a choice. That was the third noble truth. That's the axiom of choice. You can choose to stay here or you can choose to upgrade to a deeper, that's what this marker means. It's a deeper language, a deeper logic. It's getting to the source science. And this is where we blossom as human beings, individually and as a species. So I think the way you said it is that we want critical thinkers. Critical thinking in here. Okay, good. Be a critical thinker. But if you can't mind your minding in a deeper way and realize that this level of rationality is derivative, it's not getting to the source of reason. You've got to get into the logos. So this crossing, that's what our source casts. It's not media here. We're trying to open up media here. And it's medical media because we just want in a fun, playful, joyous way, because this is the greatest news, that the greatest story never told is this story.
Yeah.
And we want to share it joyously. And this is when you're in the zone, what spontaneous. We don't have prefabricated topics. Any topic can come up for us in our week. You talk about parenting and right, or suicidal ideation, genocide, racism, Holocaust, ethnic cleansing, the meltdown of democracy, the degradation of the environment, global warming. Any topic is going to be understood as a code effect. And it's vital now with source science, the medicine of source medicine, to call it out and break the trance and help open up the space for humans to migrate. We're all immigrants here. We're immigrants waiting to become citizens of that space. And we're going to have fun with this. We don't want to judge. We want everyone, all humans, are under the sway of logos.
And you'll notice at the top there that you've written unum pluribus, and you're talking about, we're crossing into that space to become citizens, but of that space. But it's not. Just be clear that it's not a space where we're all the same. That's the pluribus part of unum pluribus, as in
develop that now. That's very important, because people are scared that if there's an infinite unity, I'm going to be meltdown and it's all going to be mush.
Right.
It's not. The opposite.
The opposite.
You become who you really are, and everyone in the infinite space, infinite. Every snowflake is unique.
It's actually the red space. It's the red space that kills diversity and
exactly.
And unity. It kills unity too.
That's right. Exactly. This form of unity is divisive.
Yeah.
It divides. So if you say the United States of America, don't be frightened if you realize that they're more than one USA. It's divided, and we're divided states, right? Because the United Nations, unity here is not unum.
Yes.
And the mantra of America, we're not just talking to Americans, we're talking to all human beings here, right? The infinite unifying force cannot be busted. You can't fragment it. It's infinite unum, which means it's infinite pluribus. This was, to me, in my journey, not one of the greatest breakthroughs, to realize, wait a minute, we tend to think of unity before diversity. Diversity doesn't want plurality, multiplicity, many. No, the infinite has boundless diversity. Every point in this open frontier is a unique point. You might think of, say, 8 billion and more people. Every point is a unique, beautiful PowerPoint of the entire field. The fractal logic here is not the same as a flat line, linear logic, binary logic here. Binary logic here is a stage. Living by A is A produces either A or not A. S is either P or not P. It leads to a dividing, polarizing, objectifying. And if you objectify yourself or others, don't be surprised if you see all kinds of disorders of objectiphcation.
Yeah, on all levels.
Misogyny, misology, fear of logos, right? Xenophobia. I call it xenophobia. Xenophobia or xenophobia, right? Let's have fun.
Yeah. So on that note, we're trying to keep our episodes around 40-ish minutes, and we're already, believe it or not, we're coming up on the about 10 minutes left mark. And I want to just make sure we're obviously excited, and this is kind of the point, like we can kind of go on any subject, any point, any time. But today being sort of the intro, like welcome to Source Media Network, welcome to Breaking the Trance Sourcecast. I really want to just talk, because the word, it's very important that this is the title that we chose for whatever we're going to do.
Breaking the trance. Yeah.
It has something to do with breaking the trance. Why? Because the trance is all pervasive. It's everywhere. It's in anywhere your mind is, you've got your software. Anywhere the software is, you're in that trance. And the reason we call it a trance is when someone's in a trance, by definition, they don't know they're in a trance necessarily. They need to be woken up out of the trance. So, where was I? So we're using that word trance in the deepest possible sense because all of humanity is in a trance, which is actually not freedom. We're not free. The trance is another word for samsara, the suffering of the human species. And it's easy to point at all the symptoms of it, destruction of the environment or violence and war. It's easy to point at the symptoms, but they're all symptoms of the trance. And if we don't break the trance, all of these problems, we're going to keep on. It's like trying to put out fires over here, and then another one pops up over there, and you're trying to put out fires over there. And, and more fires are popping up, and we're trying to quell things on the symptom level in our culture, and the whole enchilada, the whole thing is being generated at a deeper level of consciousness that actually transcends all languages and cultures. It's embedded in all the cultures. Even if our grammars are different in our languages and our words and our letters and how we think and our way of being in culture can be wildly different, they're all under the sway of the deep trance that's got us in that kind of, we don't even know that we're in a zombie mode relative to our true self, our true nature, individually and collectively. And so this breaking the trance for me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, that for me, breaking the trance means that we're snapping out of it. We're stepping back and denormalizing what we have normalized, which is the suffering, which is being caused by, there is a science behind the suffering, and it is universal, and it's infinitely applicable to every single area of life that's being governed by human consciousness or encountered with human consciousness is going to be in some way, shape, or form subject to this deep code that's got us captive in a way. And so this source cast and any of the stuff that we've done really, but this one's really focusing on it, is to pulling that out. And breaking the trance means, seeing your seeing, minding your minding, not just staying in the box and being mindful. No, that's not mindful. You got to mind the box. You got to get out of that box. You got to get out of the trance. And there's a science, and it makes everything in life better. Everything in life improves when we're not out there trying to manipulate it, which is in that single bracket space. But when we step back and realize, God, we were putting they say the cart before the horse. I like to say the cart before the source. And when we do that, we're never going to break the trance. So we entrench ourselves in the trance. We reiterate the trance. We keep strengthening our being embedded within it. And so this is the big interrupter. Breaking the trance is a big interruption, which we are daring to say that this is what we're doing, and that's what we're sharing here and inviting you into in a non-judgmental, wide open heart mind space for all beings of all experiences. But to realize this is really exciting. Breaking the trance is the most exciting thing ever, because finally we can get out of the chains, the slavery, so to speak, with a capital S. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got that in before we wrapped up today.
No, we're very well done, Mal. You speak powerfully and beautifully. I love your lyrics. So that what you hit on, just to echo some of what you're saying and to build on it a bit, the great first responders who are being called always by, we're all under the sway. No, all life here is still always being held, funded, and called. That's what, this arrow, this could not be without that. That's not clear on the hologram. And so the great first responders through the ages were realizing, even though they didn't have the code notation to clarify it, they'll say, stop being objectifying, or let go of the ego, or don't make yourself into an entity, or all of these internal diagnostic. But to say, check out the software. It was hard to see that by our great teachers. And the great teachers, whether it's Moses, Jesus, Buddha, or Muhammad, they're trying to take this language of source and speak to everyday people who are in the suffering samsara, sin or samsara. Sin, from this point of view, is being cut off from the source. Samsara is being cut off in a cycle that perpetuates itself. So what you're saying is, what's this trance? It's an addiction to a powerful software. When you said earlier in this conversation, you're barking up the wrong tree, that was a very biblical thing, because in Adam and Eve, the advice of God to Adam and Eve is, don't eat of the tree of Google information, eat of the tree of wisdom. And you were barking up the wrong tree. And
Yeah.
so you found that you had to cross a barrier as a yoga teacher and as a musician, as an artist,
Mm,
to get to the source. So we are as we mind. That's one of the axioms that comes out in source science. We are our life, our experience, our emotions, our feelings, everything about our cultures, our politics, is a function of how we mind, the software. And if we don't see that the software is a temporary, it's evolved, and it's amazing to tap the power of logos and tame it on our terms, by our wills and our votes and what
mm,
we want, right? It's very compelling if you get addicted. Buddha saw it was an addiction. Right? How do you break an addiction? You have to break the trance. What is that? To become a critical thinker, to mind your minding. So that's headlines across the planet for 2,500 years. We are as we mind. And to put it in contemporary terms, the software that we're embedded within governs our whole life and experience and facts and meaning and truth and science and arts and everything. Even though we couldn't be without this, when an artist has a great breakthrough and she's in the zone, and brings it through. When a genius sees into a deeper laws of nature, a Newton, an Einstein, equals the tapping, a space-time continuum, all of these things. All the great gifts of political geniuses, our heroes, we're always being tapped and called by the source. Well, we want to take the credit. I got
yeah.
it covered. That's the arrogance, the humility you're talking about.
Yeah.
To get humble. So when you said you began to get humble, which is what says, wait a minute, I'm not running the show. There's something else deeper going on. And so when you began your critical turn to enter into what you were doing already as a young person in your music, you're bringing music through. Amazing lyrics. And your yoga teaching, you saw that yoga is not here, yoga is here. Read the Bhagavad Gita, listen to Lord Krishna. He's making it clear, yoga is here, not you. So, yes, it is really 25 years of human history and evolution by the great first thinkers. They were put in silos by this. This is a silo maker. So you put Jesus over here, you put Vedanta and yoga over there, you put science over here, you put Muhammad over there, you put Moses over there, and you have silos. And when you silo, you silence. Because when you break this narrative off from its source, you lose the voltage and power and meaning and truth force of our great teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're celebrating. So again, if anyone listening has been in the zone, have a great moment of peak performance, you know that you can't control the zone. You don't do the zone. You can't hack it. You allow yourself to be zoned. You go from here to here. You go from here to here. And you don't do that. You don't orchestrate. You don't vote on that. You allow it. Mm-hmm. And when you allow it, that's breaking the trance. And that's the greatest news of all, the greatest story never told. This hologram story of the missing code of logos, the code, to see this is a derivative code and this is a source code. Can we have source media? Can we tap the voice of Jesus? Can we tap the voice of Buddha? Can we tap the voice of Krishna? Can we listen to the logos speaking? Is what this source cast seeks to be. And we're delighted. We're having fun, because when you're in the zone, you're spontaneous. You don't predict, you don't control it, you give up. We want to invite others to dance with us in the Shiva dance of the source. Mm-hmm. So that's how I would just add to what you beautifully said, Näthan.
Well, awesome. Good. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that we finally are kicking this new journey off. It feels really timely. I had moments where I felt like, it was too long without having done something like this, but I realized it just sometimes, at least in my life, and I'm sure it's probably pretty universal, you need some times to just go on sabbatical, so to speak, and so it feels good to come back from sabbatical, and I'm feeling jazzed, I feel relaxed, and ready to have fun and just explore whatever comes up. And I almost want to invite, any viewers here, if you have any things you want to talk about, you could say like, well, how does this apply to parenting, or how does this apply to love and relationships, or how does this apply to the scene of democracy versus autocracy, or whatever, so whatever things you want to put in the comments, just feel free to drop some thoughts. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you're thinking, how you're receiving this, and anything that inspire you, like what you would like to to dive into, and we'll start collecting those suggestions, and we're going to keep this show going. This is going to be at least once a week.
Yes, this is a commitment. We at least once a week from now on. Every episode will be recorded and archived, and you'll see the links to where you go to find the archives, and also to some of the recent productions that Näthan spoke about earlier. The 1776 Now, 9 episodes with this beautiful music throughout all episodes, trying to show how do you go from a derivative broken democracy to the demos, we the people. For example, 1776ers were tapping into the space, self-evident truth, for example. Or my reflections of the quest for discovering the logos code, the missing code, the episodes on that. You'll see the links given. Feel free to explore. There's so much background here waiting, but now we want to really explore and jazz weekly and take up the du jour, whatever topics come up spontaneously, and they're all vital to go from here to here.
Yeah,
well done,
beautiful.
Well done.
And as we say goodbye, I will second that. We'll put all the appropriate links down below, our individual channels, our websites, and anything pertinent. There'll also be a couple suggested videos at the end of this. And, I decided this time around that I wasn't going to sweat it too much about subscriptions and likes and all that kind of stuff. And I stand by that because I just want to do this out of pure love and just getting this out to the world, knowing that it does. Every time you like or subscribe or share it, that it does inform YouTube to help spread it. Then in that spirit, if you feel inspired to stay in touch with us and to help get this out to the world, get more people in the source cast space with us, we really appreciate that. And
one of the things we say, I say to my students, now the contemporary generation is called Gen Z, but we're saying now Gen Z has to mature into Zen-G. The Zen generation, all ages, really need to really make that shift. That's a playful way to say it. Yeah. But it's time for us to, and so Näthan, I just want to echo what we said before. Everyone around the planet, the whole human family, right? We're unum pluribus, unity in our diversity. Every human being is unique, and whatever nation, whatever religion, whatever orientation, whatever belief system, whatever it is, we invite you to join us in a deep dialogue dance. Everyone's welcome across the planet. We want the human family to find a way to come together across all our borders.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you next week.